So we have the world's greatest director wanting to come to television. And what does he want to do? He wants to host a talk show. Will it work? Let's find out.
It had a dream, it took to flight. A TV show that felt just right. But crash it did, no chance to soar. Now it's lying on the cutting room floor. Welcome to the pilot's graveyard, where dreams are dashed and plans are scarred. A life, a tear, a tale untold. Stories of shows that never got sold. A cowboy show with robots too. A cooking show with kangaroo stew. They thought it'd work, it'd be a hit. But the network said, no, this ain't it. Welcome to the pilot's graveyard, where dreams are dashed and plans are scarred. A life, a tear, a tale untold. Stories of shows that never got sold.
So welcome to the Pilot's Graveyard. Today we're going to be talking about the second Orson Welles pilot. Last time we looked at the one he did in the 1950s for a sort of anthology series where he would do short films. And later on, he decided to come back, try to do something in Hollywood and to get into television again. But what he decided to do was create a talk show. Now, of course, Carson was the king of late night talk shows at the time, and he was looking for something that he could do on the cheap and use his Hollywood friends and just see what could be done. Didn't have a lot of money for it, and as always, he was struggling to finance films. At this point in his career, he was working on the other side of the wind still. That didn't really get finished until well after his death and appeared on Netflix just several years back. But at this time, he was really looking to show that he could do something commercial, he could do something without a lot of money. So he had access to video camera and film cameras, but not many. So you'll notice in the show that it jumps back and forth between stuff shot on video and stuff shot on film, just depending on which camera they had available. The other thing you'll notice is it feels a little disjointed, like people aren't in the same room together. We start off with Welles in the middle of the audience, so we know he's there, but the audience questions are all scripted because they shot them on film and had to shoot several takes to get all the angles that they wanted. Plus, the interview sections, people sort of came and went, and Welles had to shoot around them not being there. And when they had to leave or couldn't be there, he would just shoot inserts to fill in. So you'll notice a little bit of a disjointed quality to it, and it's a little long. The idea was to shoot a 90-minute show. So a 90-minute would fill a 90-minute time slot. So he was going to shoot a little more than an hour. But you'll notice that the first interview with Burt Reynolds goes on in quite a while. It's not a bad interview. It's comparable to what Reynolds was doing on something like The Tonight Show or the other talk shows that he was. It does drag a little, just going on for so long. But I'm sure it probably would have been edited down in the final sequences. He also had Muppets on, who were very popular at the time. According to his daughter Christina, he really just was enchanted with the Muppets. And of course, he did do the famous cameo there at the end of the Muppet movie with them. And also Angie Dickinson was his other guest, who was hot coming off Policewoman at the time. So it's an interesting mix. And so let's get into it and see what it looks like. and we'll come back and discuss.
Yes?
I read somewhere that you think television is a lot of stale junk food.
Television. Well, isn't it everything good and bad that anybody ever said about it? As entertainment, anyway. Radio and movies never came near to what that little box has come to mean to us now. I'm all for it, of course, because here I am with a show of my own. Welcome to the launching party. And to celebrate with us, we've got some really super guests. Here's the billboard. First, one of the medium's most prestigious personalities, who, as it happens, is a frog. We've also got a stand-up comic who's a bear, a bigoted eagle, and a nymphomaniac pig. We've got the Muppets for you. And there'll be some magic. We'll disembody an Egyptian princess. The world's most famous policewoman will blaze away at me with a loaded .45. Who else but the gifted, the gorgeous, the absolutely delightful Angie Dickinson. Yes, and right now, at the top of the show, who do you think? Burt Reynolds. There's just one problem. There's something they're always saying on TV just before a commercial, and I'm racking my brains to find an original, fresh, new way of saying it. But until I do, don't go away. We'll be right back. Much has been written about that sexy, macho image, the flip, flashy, tire-burning skirt chaser. The truth may surprise you. People close to him will tell you that actually he's more than a little shy. When he first came to Hollywood as a contract player for one of the big movie factories, he used to bring a sandwich for his lunch, not because he's tight, he's anything but that, but because he was too shy to go into the commissary and eat with the stars. Women love him. Men admire him, and the critics, well, even the meanest are starting to eat crow and spit out some of the sour grapes. I like him. I like him very much. I consider him a true friend, and I ask you to welcome him. Burt Reynolds. Embarrassing, these two red shirts. Okay. Shall we start with some questions?
I have two questions, one from Mr. Wells. With all your planning and everything, I know everyone here in the audience wants to know how you both ended up with red shirts and the same colored jackets.
It's not some artistic form of color coordination, but simple, lousy coincidence.
And the other question is for Mr. Reynolds. You made a picture called 100 Rifles, remember?
Yes, I do.
And the question is that if you were able to burn any of your early films, would that have been one of them?
Honey, I have such a forest fire going before I'd get to that one.
This question's for Mr. Reynolds. How much of yourself do you feel that you owe to your fans? And another part to that is, where do you draw the line between the public personality and the private man?
That's a good question.
You betted it.
What I owe them is what I give them. If you can take as much as you give, in other words, if I can use that kind of conversation that they want to talk about, or I'm talking about fans, when somebody wants to come up and talk to me, I can go walk away from that confrontation having taken as much as I've given, which is what I try to do now. I find energy from people. The second part of your question, what was the second part of your question?
Where do you draw the line between your public personality and yourself as a private man?
Well, my public personality, if I tried to live up to that privately, I would be so tired I couldn't come on the show. But I do try as best I can.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Mr. Reynolds, as a struggling actor myself, I'd like to find out, at the very beginning, when you had your first screen test, how did that come off? Did it pass? Did it fail? And how did you feel about it?
It failed miserably. And so don't give up hope. It was a terrible, terrible test. At 20th Century Fox, it was a personality test.
What's a personality test?
Well,
Where you don't learn lines and they ask you to...
you sit
where
in
you
a
come
chair
from.
and they ask you lots of questions, and my personality test was such a disaster because they rehearsed my personality for 2 weeks. And for 2 weeks I was asked the same 3 questions. You look like Marlon Brando. Do you have any Marlon Brando stories? I told 20 Marlon Brando stories. You got big shoulders. Did you play football? I told 120 football stories. And then the last question, I think, was you were born and raised in the South or something, and I told a bunch of stories about that. So the day of the test, I walked in and sat down in the makeup room, and there was this gorgeous guy sitting next to me, and I said, being naive and not knowing anything about Hollywood or cameras or makeup, I said, make me up just like him. I thought that they would put on the gorgeous #2 pancake, and I would be gorgeous. And I didn't look any different after they got it. I just looked darker. And then he went on, and they said, what's your name? And he said, Frank Gifford, New York Giants, and he did 125 funny football stories. And so just before I was to do my personality test, Irving Pincus, who was then the head of Fox in New York, said, don't do any football stories. I said, right. He said, cut the Marlon Brando thing, that's no good. And then I was about to walk out, and a guy named Freddie Brahms said, don't do anything about the South. It's, we don't want to know about you from the South. So I sat down, and this is my personality. This is what they saw. I can't understand why they didn't sign me to a 7-year contract. Guy said to me, you look a lot like Marlon Brando. He said, anybody ever tell you you look like Marlon Brando? And I went, no? So you got big shoulders. You play football? I said, no. I said, you're from the South, aren't you? I said, that was my personality. The interesting thing is that today, to be a young actor, there's no place to go and be bad. By that I mean, when I was a struggling actor, there was enormous hours of syndicated television.
Yeah.
Where you could go and just be horrible and have fun and grow as an actor. But for you, you've got to have a lead almost the first time out of the box. And if the numbers aren't good for you, you're off the air. It's really, I don't envy you. It's the toughest job in the world today to be a young actor. Much harder than when I started. But good luck anyway.
Thanks. I have a question for Mr. Reynolds. What is the difference between a star and a superstar, and which one are you?
Only a black man would ask that question. It's so unfair. The difference between a superstar, I suppose, I mean, super is such a ridiculous label, but it's something that we're using these days as opposed to something that they used a long time ago, which I don't know what it was. What was it a long time ago?
I'll tell you what happened. Now, I won't answer the question, but I'll give you the answer to what you're asking. You see, when the stars were all tied up by studios, only a few people got their name over the title, and great, big, important actors were featured players and happy to be that and were forever. Mm-hmm. Now that actors are hired independently, their agents ask for some kind of star billing, which makes a featured player a sort of star.
Yes.
Therefore, you have to invent the word superstar, meaning simply star.
The Super Bowl, the super whatever, and
Yeah,
the
that's
superstar.
right.
The difference, I think, probably is the one who, in spite of the movie, in spite of what people say about it, it's going to make money. That is a superstar. To answer your question as to whether I am a superstar or not.
The answer is yes.
No, it depends. It depends on.
I want you to tell me why there are more female stars. There are plenty of male stars. There's you, there's Robert Redford, there's Robert De Niro. I can maybe count 1 or 2 female stars. Why is that?
Quite simply because they're not making women pictures today.
Well, you know why they're not making, why they haven't been all these years.
Well, I think probably because they didn't make money, I assume. That's
No, but yeah, but there's a reason that goes behind that, which is that in the days when you went to movies, the way you turned on the television, that is, you went out 2 or 3 nights a week to the local movie house, right?
Yes.
The decision of what movie you would go to was up to Mama, Mrs. Jones. Mr. Jones came home from work, tired, said, well, she said, let's go and see Joan Crawford or whatever.
Yeah.
She chose pictures about women because women are interested in pictures about women, obviously. The choice of who went was not up to a 20-year-old kid. It was up to a lady with 1 or 2 children and a tired working fellow who came home and didn't care what he went to see.
Also, part of it is because they're not writing enough pictures for women, but that's changing. That's changing every day.
Yes, and a good thing, too.
Since your image in America and in the world is of this womanizer, this person who lives that type of life, how much are you in control of that? And do you foster that image through PR firms?
Well, I'm a bachelor, and I think it's something that people tend to forget. And in the past 7 years of my life, I've been with 5 women. And I prefer the company of one woman as opposed to men and running around with 4 or 5 different ladies at one time. But I've also made fun and sent up this character that everyone has, newspapers and magazines have created. And by sending it up, I've made fun of my so-called image. And in doing so, instead of exploding it, I've expanded it somehow. By going on the Tonight Show and doing self-deprecating jokes about my sexual prowess, it seems that it's only, if you pardon the word, elongated it.
We better pause right there, I think. We'll be back.
This is a 2-part question for Mr. Reynolds. Do you think you have more female fans than male fans? And being one of your biggest fans, may I have a kiss?
Let's take the second part first. Come down here, my dear. What's your name?
Diana.
Diana? How are you? I think I have more male fans than I don't really know, and I do know that, and I'm really sincere when I say this. The highest form of sometimes flattery to me is I'll be somewhere, and what I call a working man. I mean, a guy who works with his hands and comes over, and I see calluses and dirt and whatever, what he does, and it's hard for him, really hard for him to say that he likes another man, likes his films, says that to me. I fall apart. I mean, I really do appreciate that.
Mr. Reynolds, I have a question for you. What is it that you like most about success, and how has your success been, and what have the drawbacks been to being successful?
The drawbacks, you don't talk about because you sound like somebody in a Harold Robbins book. But, the drawbacks are kind of obvious, actually. That your privacy is taken away. You see this enormous headline, Bert back together with so-and-so. So what they do is they make up something. What I like most about Success is the incredible accessibility you have to people that you didn't think you ever would be able to meet. Case in point, how I met Orson. I didn't think I would ever meet Orson or ever have an opportunity to not only meet him, but actually go to dinner with him and actually talk to him for hours and hours about things that I was dying to ask him about. It came about, quite honestly, because he happened to like my work. And if he didn't like my work, he wouldn't have spent 5 minutes with me, because that's the way Orson is. The bottom line is that if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to be happy when you get successful.
I've known enormously successful people who are miserable because they don't even believe in success. They don't believe they have it.
Yes.
You know, it's particularly true of women, of actresses in movies. I've known very few actresses. Cary Grant once said he never knew a movie actress who was happy. And there are very few that are.
I think it's partly due to the fact that they know that it's coming to an end very quickly.
Of course, success is a kind of parody of youth, isn't it? When you have youth, you know it's slipping away from you. When you have success, you know it's like youth.
Yeah.
You watch the mirror to see it disappear. So it's an extreme form of it, as though you were given 10 tons of youth.
Yes.
And for even less time and all that.
And like youth, you look around you and you see old men and old women who you went to high school with.
How do you feel about working for bad directors?
Bad directors. I don't know if that question's for me or for Bert. But the dear Lord only knows we've both had our share of them.
Well, there is that frightening moment, you know, Orson, when because there are a tremendous amount of people in this town who, they do what I call, they give great meeting. You go into this enormous office, and he says, I'm like Stanley Kramer. I feel that the opening shot is it should be the most interesting thing that happens when the people sit down in the theater. And they go on with all these answers that are
Nothing to do with what they're saying.
No, nothing to do with because you're doing a popsicle comedy with them, but they're saying things and I'm saying, boy, what an impressive way this man has of talking. And then there's that moment, that awful moment, when you get on the soundstage or you get out in the street with them and you realize they don't know what they're doing. They not only don't know what they're doing, but they're scared to death, frightened.
Of course they're scared, but they ought to remember that no actor's ever going to blow the whistle on a director, even if the picture's a hit. No actor's ever going to say, sure, but the director was lousy.
Well, I do it all the time, unfortunately. I really do. I've never been one not to tell. It wasn't my fault.
It is our fault, though, sometimes, because we do sometimes make pictures with directors we know are bad, because we know that sometimes bad directors make good pictures. Directing being the one job in movies where you can scoot along for 40 years with a little luck and no talent at all without ever getting caught. And lots of them, as you say, are great con men. But now you're a director yourself, and one of the good ones. I think you'll admit that we're all of us, good and bad, pretty talented in the fine art of conning ourselves. It's so easy to start thinking you're great when you see these marvelous things happening all around you, and you remember that you did indeed say last Wednesday something like that. You asked your crew to figure out a way to give you some crazy and impossible camera shot today, when they've performed a miracle and somehow managed to give it to you on film. All you seem to remember is that you, godlike, gave the command, forgetting very conveniently that just asking for a miracle is no trick at all. And what's wonderful is the way your technicians accomplished it.
I remember when the cameraman said to me the first day, "Where do you want the camera?" And it's a great straight line if I've ever heard one. And I said, "I think pointed towards the actors would be good." And
Did you try it then?
yes, we tried it that way, and it seemed to work.
This is for Mr. Reynolds.
Yes, sir.
I read an article where you said you would like to live the life of a pseudo-intellectual. Would you explain that?
That I would like to live the life of a pseudo. You must have read that in the National Enquirer. Stay with us. We shall return.
We're talking to Burt Reynolds, who's started a brilliant new career as a filmmaker. His first was an action picture, which was such a box office blockbuster that got back all its costs in one city alone. And his second was a riotous comedy that has to be taken very seriously. As a film, I mean. He called it The End. For Burt, I think it was just the beginning. So for now, I think it'd be a good idea if all your questions should go not to the actor, but to the movie director. Yeah?
What about the critics? How do you react to them?
Madam, this is a family show. Well, once they got you pegged, they like you to stay that way. That's maybe the worst thing about them.
Oh, true.
Just leaving it in the acting.
Oh, yes,
thing.
that's absolutely true.
You know what I mean?
They want you to stay within the realm of if you let him drive a car 110 miles an hour and be funny to redneck cops, and we'll let him say that he's the best at that at the moment. David Carradine is right close to him, but if he steps out of that area and goes into another area, then we'll squash him like a bug.
Yes, but if you're good enough or long enough, they'll come around.
My only great hope is that I'll be alive when the AFI recognizes me.
But you know, there's a degree of, it's a terrible degree of snobism about all this. You mustn't be good looking, you mustn't be funny, and you must be what we already bought.
Yeah.
And if you change, we're in trouble.
Well, the best example of that is Cary Grant, who never, ever won an Oscar.
Yeah, but didn't they give him one of those consolation prizes?
Yes.
We love you, Cary. One.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was after he went to work for a perfume factory. He realized that he wasn't going to make another film. But what's interesting is what you were talking about, and that is what I call the envy barrier. With Cary Grant, we all hated him because he had everything, and was totally ignored by the Academy, which is interesting that, see, because Dreyfus won an Academy Award for comedy, but you see, Richard doesn't fit any of those categories. You see, I mean, Richard is you can say, well, that's not a guy that I'm worried about stealing my girl.
Yes.
And I mean, you could trust her with Richard and go out of the room. I wouldn't leave her with Cary Grant for a second. You see,
I wouldn't turn away.
Yeah, it makes it easier, I think, for them to vote. I'm not taking anything away from Dreyfus' performance because I think it was brilliant, but when you take that performance and put it up against Bringing Up Baby, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
He invented himself.
Yes.
In other words, he wasn't born Cary Grant with all those extraordinary mannerisms and movement.
Yeah.
It was all built piece by piece with with a great deal of thought behind every single charming quirk. There was never anything more self-made.
Yeah. And they got more and more stylized as he went along.
Yes.
I mean, it got so stylized by the end that it sounded like Rich Little doing Cary Grant. You know? But it was wonderful.
Yes, but Cary's the kind of actor who makes everything seem a lot easier than it really is. And then, of course, there are the actors who make everything seem a lot harder.
What I call the constipated school of acting, where you get the certain groups of actors who do that kind of film, one film after another, where they get a nomination and a thing of preparation H at the end of each picture. You know that they're going to get that because they just, every vein in the neck was working, and they were working, and they sweat, and they dug, and they chewed on things, and they bled, and they did everything. You say, and a lot of people get together and say, my God, he's a good actor. To me, the nicest thing you could say about an actor is that you can't catch him acting.
Yeah?
How do you feel about directing yourself?
It's almost impossible, and you've proven me wrong, and I hope I've proven myself wrong, that it's almost an impossible task to direct yourself. And act.
No, you were right. It is impossible.
Yes.
We don't direct ourselves. We only limit our mistakes somewhat.
That's true.
But we're never truly objective. No director, no actor is the best director of himself. That goes without saying.
Yeah. The only good thing about it is that you have great trust in the director.
That's right. You're at ease with him somehow.
Yes.
Well, you know his little ways.
Yes. It's the only time I've ever gotten a part for sleeping with a director.
This may sound like a stupid question, but you both say that you're not the best directors of yourselves, so why do you do it?
Well, we talked about this one time, Orson. I never felt exhausted or tired.
At the end of a day?
When I was directing. I never felt it. It was...
Nor I.
At the end of the picture, they carried me away,
yeah.
a little brown bag.
Sure.
But while I was directing, and those evenings when they would say wrap, I would say, why are we wrapping? I want to shoot some more.
Of course.
Mr. Reynolds is beginning a new career as a film director. So am I. I wonder if Mr. Wells might have some advice for both of us.
Well, as a director, Bert already has it made, but to you I'll say, don't allow yourself to fall in love with the camera. Keep it in its place and keep your eye open for those little moments you didn't plan for. It's my only definition of what it is to be a movie director. A man who presides over accidents.
It's wonderful. It's true.
You know what I mean?
I do. Certainly the best moments and they were moments too. They weren't scenes. Moments that I had on film were accidents or happened at the time.
Or little gifts from heaven or whatever. Yeah.
I remember that I was doing Deliverance and I didn't know who this character was. I couldn't find out who the character was. And James Dickey, who had written the screenplay and the book, had given me a book to read called Zen and the Art of Archery.
Yes, I've been asked to read it and indeed have finished it.
Yes. Well, we went and we did a scene where I was to shoot this arrow. It didn't end up in the film, but I was to shoot into a target where we were talking about going up north from Atlanta, and I couldn't shoot the bloody arrow at all. And we started to rehearse, and I got in the character, and I couldn't miss. Absolutely couldn't miss it. Every arrow went in the center of the bullseye. And then they said, you're Freddie Bear, who was this great expert archery, came up and said, you're the most natural archer I've ever seen. He said, you're wonderful. I said, thank you very much. They said lunch, and everybody went away, and I picked up the thing, and it went off into a tree, and down in my foot, and off. But within the character, I could do it.
We don't really see or really hear, except in very rare moments of aliveness. The process of acting brings you a good way up on that ladder of perception.
I do know what you're talking about seeing things for the first time, because I remember when I was really sick one time, about a year ago, and I went down to a lake and realized that I couldn't get back, physically couldn't walk back, and thought that they would find me by that lake, you know. And I suddenly became aware of the beauty around me. It was like the colors became twice as colorful as they were before, and the lake was much more beautiful than I had seen. And I was angry. First I was angry because it was so beautiful, and I thought, well, this is not a good time to go. Because it's, you know, why couldn't you have me by some dung heap or something, and I would be glad to go. But this is such beauty here, and I really like it. And then what made it worse was two young people came along who were fans and wanted my autograph, and I didn't have the strength to stand up. And I thought, this might be, you know, one of the things that tips the scales, you know, one way or the other, if I'm left here to die. So I signed it, and then I said, could you carry me back to the cabin? They, of course, didn't understand at all. Thought it was some terrible Hollywood sick thing. He's got some weird thing planned for us. I just wanted to lift back to the cabin.
Did they carry you back?
No, they didn't. They left me there, and I literally crawled back. Crawled kind of hands and knees and breathed and crawled a little bit, and then they thought I was crazy. They just kind of laughed, said, oh, you big kid, are you? And left me there, and I kind of crawled back. And somehow made it the next day on the picture. Made it through the hours and hours of working. And it was really an interesting picture because you know the picture. I was supposed to be bigger than the other character in the picture, and there was a joke in the picture that he would find my clothes, and my clothes would be very big on him, and I would put on his clothes, and they would be very small. But as the picture went on, I got smaller and smaller, until finally I was much smaller than him. I weighed about 155 pounds. And so it was terribly embarrassing because I felt like I was getting dressed by Fredericks of Hollywood. They would come and put fake arms on me, and a fake tush, and fake chest, and then I would put on these clothes.
You were the Incredible Hulk.
Yes, I was. Fortunately, my head never shrunk. So the body looked in proportion to the head, you see, and it was okay. But Ryan O'Neal was the other actor, and he was working out every day. He just kept getting bigger. And I kept getting smaller. We'll be back in a
I have a question for Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Wells, both.
Oh, excuse me, but for now, I think I should explain that Bert here is what is known as a goodbye person. You know what that means? I learned it on the Carson show. It's when a guest can't stay on right up to the sign-off, and the host has to say goodbye to him on camera to explain why his chair is empty at the end. And because Bert has to catch a plane or run and change his red shirt or something, he'll be leaving us a few minutes early, okay? My point is that while he's here, all your questions ought to be for him.
I wanted to know why there are so few successful women directors and producers. Is it because they don't have the abilities or the opportunities?
Well, they're getting more opportunities every day, and there has been, and I'm sure Orson will agree, there's been an enormous prejudice against women directors.
I have a quote here from Mr. Wells.
Oh, no.
What?
All right, go on. We'll see it. Yeah?
Okay. Truman Capote once said that some of the finest actors I know are not very intelligent. In fact, they are stupid. Do you agree with this?
I'd like to take him up on that. I will this time later, but during this last break, there was a question we said we'd answer Bert. What was it that decided you to be a director?
I worked so many years, 250 television shows, and I don't know how many movies before I did.
That's a lot of different directors that you're working with, too, yeah.
Enormous amount. And realized that the majority of them, really the majority of them, were traffic directors. That they told you, you know, turn east when you hit the chair, smile when you hit the divan, you know.
Well, those are right up there. I know a lot that don't do that.
Don't do that, yes. Yeah. And I remember the first time that one put his arms around me. And I thought, because I'd waited for 20 years for somebody to put their arms around me and whisper in my ear and tell me. Because I'd heard all these stories about Kazan, how he used to go up and say,
whisper in your ear.
Yeah, play it like you have to go to the bathroom, and suddenly it would be wonderful. And I was waiting for someone to come and tell me that magic ingredient to make the scene, and a director came up, put his arm around me, and walked me away from the scene. I thought, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for. And we walked about a good 20 yards away from the crew, and the crew, of course, looked with great awe at the director because they thought this is the moment that he tells us.
Sure.
And he said to me, the sun's going down and the baby's crying. Now give me a good one, baby. So the sun's going down, and the baby was crying. So I went back, gave him a good one, and the crew all said, "What a wonderful director he is." So then I went on and through a lot of other films, and I was always interested in the mechanics, which most actors aren't. I was always interested in the mechanics of making movies, and studied them and watched them, and knew, as we all know, that the mechanics you can learn. But
and quite easily, but you must be interested to begin with.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's supposed to be a big mystery.
Yes.
Of course it is.
It isn't a big mystery. As a matter of fact, if you've ever been around a set with Miss Davis or Miss Crawford are working, you know it isn't a big mystery, because they say, you know, put that down, give me a 40 lens in the thing, and squeeze that light down. That's a little too warm, but you know, they're telling everybody how to light, and they do.
And they know.
And they know. What happens is that to be able to communicate with everyone, and not let anyone think that they're not important who's in the film. Sorry, I don't have to talk to him, because he just says, going up. That guy, for that moment in time on your film, is the most important man.
Not only
on the
that,
set.
but he has a more difficult job than the fellow with more lines.
Much more difficult. Because it's
very much harder to play a one-line part than this. Yes. You must have played him. I did.
Yes.
I played one on radio and got thrown off the show and off of radio for a year. I was so bad.
Yes.
Had one line, you know.
Well, it's kind of squeezes off in your throat. That word "up."
Yeah, sure.
Comes out like "up."
Yeah. I say, why can't? All he's got to say is that. Why can't he get it right?
And that's what the director says to you. Why can't you say it? You only say "up," and then of course it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Instead of coming over and saying, you know, your motivation is to take the elevator up. Thank you very much. I didn't know. And then I decided this is what I want to do. I want to put my arms around an actor and talk to him. I want to direct. It's desperate. The problem is that people go in and they say, "I just saw 3 women," or whatever, and then they go look at Gator, and they talk about where my head is at and where Altman's head is at, or where Ingmar Bergman's head is at. You know, give Ingmar Bergman Gator and let's see what he can do with it.
I hope it's clear. It's a kind of a delicate point. Forget all those car chases and centerfolds. To appreciate what Bert is becoming, a lot of people are going to have to pull up their skirts and wipe the snobism off their lips, and God help us, forgive him for what he already is. A crowd pleaser, one of the biggest. And he earned his way, not through a couple of lucky movies, but over a long, long period of time. He didn't get here yesterday. He's in the highest and best sense of that word, a self-made man, a self-made superstar. I think he's going to be even more interesting as a director than he is as an actor. But Bert, the decision which you're going to have to finally make is, will you be using the bankable star to bankroll the director or your director's skill just to protect him? I won't back you up against the wall and ask you to answer that unless you'd like to.
I'd like to answer it. I think that I could have very easily called the inn Smokey and the Bandit Gets Sick. I took an enormous chance because I skate better on thin ice. I can go on directing Gators and Smokies and whatever for the rest of my directing career and be safe and make money, but not have that which happened. People hating me and some people really liking my work. Not getting some kind of emotional contact from people that were important for me to get emotional contact from. The next chance that I take, the next project that I direct, will be just as big and just as far away from the end. But try to grow with it and grow with my actors and grow with the script and grow with the project. But I won't safe it out. I promise that as a director, I won't go and do a project that I could do with my eyes closed, and you know that, Orson. The kind of projects that I'm handed as a director, I could do it and it would make money, lots of money, if I made a certain kind of film.
Of course.
But I won't do that. I promise I won't do that. And I think that's important.
It will be a real pleasure to all of us, to your friends who love you, and to your public, to watch you keeping that promise.
Thank you.
We'll be back. Somebody asked Bert what he thought of critics. Well, me, I'm used to them. Some of the toughest critics are in my own family. You can't just sit there, my daughter told me when I was telling her about this show. You can't just sit there all the time and talk. Well, as my darling little critic can see for herself, I'm not just sitting anywhere. I'm walking. Of course I'm walking. There can't be many of you out there in television land so morbid that you'd like to see me dance. But I'm going to have to use a bit of slang. My bag. That's the expression, and it's just outdated enough to make my daughter wince. My bag is an entertainer. My bag is a bag of tricks. I'm a magician, which means I'm going to lay a little magic on you. But first, while I make a lightning change out of this dumb red shirt, we'll switch cameras to a little company of cloth-headed comedians who have moved triumphantly to prime time all over the globe. I'm sure you're as fond of them as I am. Stand by for the Muppets.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue.
This is gonna be a winner this time, I promise. This is Orson and me. How can it lose? I came with my own jokes, you know. Low burlesque comedy. What happened to high wit? I brought my own special material. And I hired my writer, Gags Beasley.
Not Gags Beasley.
Gags Beasley, the ace comedy writer for 57 years in this business. He has given me the A material for the Orson Welles show.
He is the cheapest comic, the cheapest comedy writer that there's going.
Are you kidding? I'm paying him $1.50 a joke.
$1.50 a joke?
$1.50, yes. You called that cheap?
You should pay him by the laugh.
Well, you could never get paid then.
That's right.
Disgusting program. How do you do, Mr. Wells? Mr. Wells? Hello, Mr. Orson.
You can call me whatever you like.
Just don't call me for dinner. I'm preparing. This is bare meditation.
It's a little like the Stanislavski method.
Well, it's the Gags Beasley method. You just say, please let me be funny. It hasn't worked yet. Here I go, please.
Anytime, Sam, anytime. Oh, makeup. Oh,
Thank
makeup.
you.
Makeup.
Thank you, makeup.
Makeup. All right, ready with the comedy routine. Well, Kermit, I don't even have a script.
Where are the cue cards?
Gonzo?
Oh, there it is.
Hold him up straighter, please.
Okay, Gonzo. What? Just hold them up.
Okay, how's that?
Higher.
What?
Higher.
Okay, here, how's that?
Higher. Higher.
Okay, I'm trying.
Higher.
Okay, let me get on a box.
Higher.
Okay.
Higher.
What do you think?
Higher to high down.
Okay, can you see this?
Gonzo? They're upside down.
Gonzo, they're upside down. And the wrong cue card.
That's my line. I'd like some advice on hosting this show.
Why don't you do what Carson does?
You mean stay home 3 days a week?
Very good, very good.
Gonzo, there's still that first one that we missed. Isn't that you, Kermit? How would you describe Fred Astaire?
Very big.
And John Travolta?
Even bigger.
And Dolly Parton?
was the joke.
Yes,
See, that's the part you omit laughter.
That's
Air comes out of the mouth. And you go, wah, ha, ha.
This next one's for me. I think it's a straight line.
The man's got a straight line. All right.
I could talk about politics. That might be interesting.
Politics?
Yes, the Middle East. Oil, for example.
Oil? We have more oil right here in the West.
You mean off the California coastline?
No, on Ronald Reagan's hairline. I'm only a bear. And a puppet to boot. I want so much to be funny. That's all I want in life, is to be funny.
That's all we want too, Fonzie. For you to be funny.
The next one is mine. What hobbies do you have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you were really talking to me, human to bear. I got so involved with the one-to-one human relationship, I forgot the doll stuff. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Set me up again.
What hobbies do you have?
Jogging. I love to jog. You should jog. It builds up the old stomach muscles.
I'm not trying to build them. I'm trying to find them.
Yes, sir. That was bingo time.
Well, we might just do some straight talk show material, don't you think?
You ever seen a bear sweat?
What I'm getting at is I'd like to delve into what a show consists of. Mostly sports, mostly politics, or mostly personalities. What?
Mostly commercials. That's a double conk.
It's also a beautiful cue, Fuzzy. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce at this... Hi, animal. Darling. I'm introducing one of the world's great illusionists. The world's greatest illusionist. What did you have for lunch? 2 guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Orson Welles and the Orson Welles Magic Theater.
Watch closely, Comet. Watch.
I'm watching.
From the shadows of the pyramids in the 3rd dynasty, the unfathomable antiquity of ancient Egypt, the legend of the mummy's curse. Hatepfa, princess of the Nile, daughter of the pharaoh Radames III, fell on an evil day under the displeasure of the high priests, and these, laying hold upon her person, cast her into a sarcophagus, bolting her limbs with cruel greaves.
That's incredible.
And shutting her away from human sight in a gilded mummy case. Then it was that the executioners brought forth from the torture chambers the dread instruments of ritual sacrifice, the great sword-sharp axe blades, whose lightest whisper is deadlier than the cobra's fang. These, being positioned upon a command, were driven through the princess, through her body, twice and thrice, dividing her at the waist and the neck. And if you believe that, you believe anything. Of course you don't, do you? You know perfectly well that I haven't murdered the young lady, have I? Why, scarcely an inch of tempered steel is separating her body from her head.
Isn't that wonderful?
All right, get me out of here. According to the legend, A kindly wizard cast a spell on her, and in such wise that the death axis, slicing through her, drew, as you see, no single tear, no single drop of blood.
I don't believe that.
How is it that the lady lives still and breathes still, partitioned as she is now into 3 separate and distinct compartments?
Actors are sick.
So powerful was that enchantment that in the dark of the moon, the grave robbers, and here they come. Those verminous jackals breaking into the center of the mummy case. And lo, what did they find? Nothing. The largest of the 3 portions of the princess had simply vanished. Return, O princess, to your corporeal entirety.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that. Oh, sure, I know how to do that trick.
I might say just here that the Muppets, bless their little cloth heads, have this in common with Burt Reynolds. They too are goodbye guests.
I know that trick.
How does he do it?
I don't know.
It will certainly be easier to sustain the mystical mood, that necessary solemnity, without a cheering section.
I knew it once.
All the same, it'd be doing you no favor at all if we hustled them away without giving you a chance to see just what's behind a Muppet, or rather who. So don't you go either. We're coming right back with the Muppet Masters. Muppets, they have something else in common, you know, with Burt Reynolds. They suffer from the same handicap. They're superstars, but just like Burt, they're rising above it. 250 million people enjoy them every week, just because they're so popular. We may neglect to notice that Muppetry is also an art. Sitting beside me here is the Muppet Master himself. There's only one word for Jim. He's a genius. Think of Rasputin as an Eagle Scout. And in the chair next to him, and indeed very seldom far from him, is Jim's close associate and friend, a man who truly fits his name, Mr. Frank Oz. You've all read the Oz books and seen one of the movies at least. So Oz, you'll remember, is that lovely, crazy country on the other side of a Kansas cyclone. We've all been there, at least before we were dumb enough to grow up. Well, Frank never left. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frank Oz and Mr. Jim Henson. Welcome to you both. Okay, I'm not going to try to ask any of those heavy questions that get thrown at you about the symbiotic relationship between the puppet and the puppeteer. I'm sure that kind of question must bug you more than somewhat.
I know it bothers me a lot, and I think it's crazy. People ask me, do you ever forget when you're talking to someone on the phone or at a restaurant, do you ever forget and start talking in Miss Piggy or Fozzie? You know, I think I'd be out of my mind if I did that. But they ask, that's a question asked a great deal. Do you all of a sudden, you know, if I'm talking to you, all of a sudden I go right up here, you know, without even knowing. That's silly. Of course I don't do that. That's insane.
That's similar to the other question about does the puppet become real to you, and do you relate to it as another person? You know, which again I can't.
Which is crazy.
It's not us at all.
No, we're pretty functional. People want me to say, or you to say, yes. Well, I wake up in the morning, I take my little dolly out of the bed and put him right on the chair and have breakfast with him.
How do you feel about that?
We protect them, and we protect the integrity of their characters, but we don't cutesify them, cute in the pejorative sense, you know. We don't really make a big thing of it.
Frank, you're Bert to Jim's Ernie, and Jim, you're Kermit to Frank's Fosse, and Frank is Grover to his own Cookie Monster. I couldn't name all of them if I tried, but I'm sure that these little characters seem so much larger than life, and yet so theatrically true because they're so wonderfully acted. Isn't that what it boils down to? You're basically actors, aren't you? You and Jim. In fact, you're a lot of actors.
I've always believed it's that a puppeteer is an actor, but just with a different tool. An actor is the whole body. Puppeteer is what you have on the end of your arm.
Every Muppet is an extension of Jim Henson or Frank or
A facet of ourselves.
Are you willing to consider that Kermit
It's amazing. It's like
is a little piece of Jim Henson, some little tiny piece of him somewhere?
Oh, sure. Yes, certainly with Kermit, that's true.
A large piece.
How did you start? Or rather, how did you get hooked? You know, I was never really stage struck. I was puppet struck. I guess I'm still stricken. And that must be true of almost everybody. What was the first puppet show you ever saw?
I don't recall ever seeing a puppet show when I was a kid.
You never saw a puppet?
No. And I never played with puppets. I never had any to play with.
Frank?
Well, I started when I was 12 years old in puppets, and I was a strange kid.
You were nothing of the kind. Jim was the strange one. At least you admit to getting started at 12.
When I started, it was like just out of high school.
Let's get this on the record.
And then I just heard about a television station that was looking for a puppeteer. And so I made puppets and auditioned because I really wanted to work in television.
For everybody else in the world, puppets are a magical part of our childhood. And here's a man who never gave them a thought, and his name is Jim Henson, the most famous name in the whole history of puppetry. And you're telling us that you went into puppetry just as a way to get into television?
Yes, because I wanted to work in this field. I loved it.
And you made your first puppets just in order to audition?
I got a job, and they put me on, and I had a show for a little while. And then I was going through those sort of early times in one's life, and I was breaking up with a girl and that sort of thing, so I decided to go away and paint for a year. So I went to Europe, and I wandered around, and I met a lot of other puppeteers. And in the course of that little trip, I found that, you know, it was a good art form, and people were doing interesting things, and it was something that you could get into and develop and turn into something else.
Something you could develop, something you could change. Well, that's what you did, all right. Puppets are very ancient entertainers. They don't just go back to the crib. They go back to the cave. I'm afraid they were beginning to show their age a little until you came along and dragged that whole squeaking box of dolls into the 20th century, into the mainstream. The big time. The Muppets, for my money, are the most original thing that ever happened on the box. Don't you agree? Stay with us. A trice, or more like half a trice. We'll be returning with Miss Angie Dickinson. We have arrived, ladies and gentlemen, at that point in the program where I change into my Chinese costume. While this is going on, we'll be showing you some movies. Why the Chinese costume? That will be explained later. Why the movies? Well, that's part of the explanation. Monitors like this one are placed throughout the studio, of course. You'll notice we started black and white, so you'll be sure this is a movie and that the gentleman in the beard is not me. We were just testing, you understand. Now, that happened just 5 days ago, and on that same evening, I went to dinner, which hardly seems worth mentioning until you see the lady I was with. Here's where we dined.
Hello, ma maison. Would you like a table for 6?
Here's the proprietor, Patrick Terrai. I won't mention the name of his restaurant. He doesn't need the publicity.
Well, I'm sorry. Next time, why don't you call us a couple of weeks in advance?
Exclusive isn't the word for it. It's easier to get into heaven. How did I get in? With our cameras and a little troupe of gypsy fiddlers. We never would have made it without this lady. To be very sexy and also very nice is such an impossible combination that you might think it couldn't exist if it weren't for Angie Dickinson. The truth is, I brought her there to proposition her. Nothing romantic. I just wanted a partner for my little game of Russian roulette. You'll notice that we've changed our film to color, if only to do justice to Patrick. And tonight he's right here in the flesh. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Patrick Terrai. And our cameras photographed just what he did last week. You see him in our little movie there holding a sealed envelope. Patrick took a pack of his own playing cards, isn't that right?
That's correct, sir.
You sealed your card into that envelope, which was then kept by you in a strong box in your own private safe. That card is a secret known to you alone. You're willing to swear to that?
I was willing to swear to that.
Okay. We go straight into our film now, which I give you my word shows exactly what happened with no camera trickery 5 days ago when I took Miss Dickinson to dinner. Here it comes. Here it is. They use it for experiments in the paranormal, an opaque, four-sided plastic fence. And yes, Mr. Patrick has kindly loaned us the house cards. He shuffled them. He needn't have bothered. We're going to do that ourselves in a very wild and frantic sort of way. I'm afraid I dropped a couple. Thank you, Robert. We need all 52 of them. Stick your arm in that hole. There are a lot of cards in there. Those cards are facing every direction. I want you to stroke those cards very tenderly. Now smooth the cards in a sexy way on the table.
Now, this part
That'll
I
be
understand.
you like that, don't you? Yes. Now grab a bunch of cards from somewhere else. Turn them around. Drop them.
Oh, my God, I lost my hand. Oh, all right. Here we go.
Throw some cards in the air. Now some more, so they're facing every direction.
Come, I can't see and you can.
Of course you can. I can't see them either, Angie. This is ESP. Throw a whole bunch of cards into the air. While you were blindly messing up those cards of yours, you will have made a pattern conceived by your unconscious, that mysterious and unknown country in our head where, if we truly want to, we can see in the darkness without opening our eyes. But first, the envelope. I've never touched it. Nobody except Patrick has ever touched it. The cameras are recording exactly what is taking place. The Jack of Diamonds. You'll feel with your fingertips a single card calling to you. Turn it over very delicately. Now, take your arm out of the box. Stand up, please. Move to the back of the table. Now, you couldn't possibly see what your hand has been doing. There's no way on earth you could know which of all those cards now are turning face up and which are face down. Let's take a look.
Orson.
With one exception.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The Jack of Diamonds. Now, as I say, all that happened last week. What you've been seeing, remember, was film. Tonight we have Angie Dickinson live. And because she passed that test so sensationally with cards, tonight we're going to try it with bullets. Russian roulette. It's a game. You play with a revolver and a live bullet. If you're a gambler, that is. A real gambler. I once asked Nick the Greek for a definition. The only real gambler, he told me, is the one who plays for more than he can afford to lose. Russian roulette. What you stand to lose. In a short while, we'll be doing that not to a dummy, but to me. 5 shots will be blank cartridges. You can bet your life on that. And I'll be using a real bullet. There was a famous magician, a Chinese magician, who died on stage doing a trick with a bullet, Ling Su. I hope this robe of his will bring me luck tonight. He was wearing it in London on that last performance, March 23rd, 1918. On stage there, we have a committee. Police officers, gunsmiths, small arms experts, and they have selected from a wide choice of handguns the revolver, which they themselves, in the presence of a notary public, have placed into a sealed packet. And there it is, the seal broken and the gun removed for the first time since it was chosen, last Thursday. Now, the experiment which we're about to attempt, and it is that, an experiment, since we cannot possibly be certain of the outcome, has been seen in public only very rarely in this century, and quite frankly, they were magic tricks. However, even those fake versions were highly dangerous magicians. Quite a lot of them died just attempting it, including, you'll remember, Ling Su. Strangely enough, it was during the police autopsy that the Chinese conjurer's pigtail came loose. And it was only then that an astonished world discovered he was no Chinese at all. But Ling Su was an American, named Robinson. Chung, or Robinson, was known to be a fiercely jealous husband who said his wife had driven him to desperation. But could he have planned to die like that in the middle of his most famous trick? Public suicide, or was it murder? If the cameras would move again to our committee of experts. They've signed a deposition. Would you show it, please? Testifying to the condition of the gun, which they have submitted to the most painstaking and minute examination. Likewise, the death bullet with which it would be loaded. And now, may I draw your attention to the fact that I've been given no opportunity whatsoever to tamper with the gun or with the ammunition. At no time tonight will I so much as touch them. The death bullet, which will be fired in this studio, is genuine. You gentlemen agree that the bullet is, as you stated in your notarized deposition, very much the real thing. That's right. Good. You'll also notice, ladies and gentlemen, that conditions here are very different than they were in London half a century ago, and actually more dangerous. Our bullet and our gun, as you've seen, are perfectly genuine. With Chung, they were tricked, but he died all the same, as did many other magicians. And what have we done here? I mean, where are we? By eliminating mechanical dangers, by doing away with all trickery, I'll tell you where we are. We're left with the far deadlier uncertainty of pure luck. Loaded the revolver. I haven't touched it. And of course, there's no way in the world that you could know which are the blank cartridges. As for the real bullet, of course, neither one of us knows just where it is right now in the revolver. You see the target between your first shot and the last. I will attempt to ascertain by divination moment when you come to the death bullet. When I give you the warning, please aim at the target. You can begin. Fire! 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 If you want to, you can give that thing just one more spin.
I'm just gonna shoot.
Target! 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 Fire! Time now to say goodnight, except it's not exactly time. In television, as you know, they do everything by the clock, and now they tell me there's an extra 60 seconds or so, and what to do with that? Well, I did promise, I remember back at the beginning, to do something about Truman Capote. Truman claims, what is it, that actors are stupid. Who is it that brought that up? Oh, there you are. Don't forget that Truman's a writer. And they're lonely people. Those who write the words are always a bit jealous of those who speak them. The actors get to talk to the audience, but who's the writer got? A sheet of paper. Say you're a novelist. You wind up a chapter no matter how good it is. The typewriter's not about to burst into applause. And speaking of applause, here's what's important. To my friends, to Jim Henson of the Muppets and Frank Oz and Bert, of course, Burt Reynolds, and the beautiful Angie Dickinson for making this show possible. All my thanks. And now, since there's still 25 seconds left to go... What? Okay, 20. Make it 19. I'm ready for that. Whatever I do, it'll have to be short and sweet. And this is... It's a poem written 100 years ago about somebody called Jenny, and she must have been quite a girl. Jenny kissed me when we met, jumping from the seat she sat in. Time, you thief who love to get sweets into your list, put that in. Say I'm weary, say I'm sad, say that health and wealth have missed me, say I'm growing old. But add, Jenny kissed me. Good night.
So that was the Orson Welles show. This is what was pitched to networks to see if Orson Welles could get a time slot. As we were talking about, it does feel a little long because he's shooting for that 90-minute slot in late night. The Reynolds interview is his main draw. It goes on for good 40 minutes of his running time. Burt Reynolds was very hot right then because he was just done Smokey and the Bandit, and he had started directing. The movie they're talking about a lot with him directing is The End. If you ever get a chance to see that, it is actually a very good black comedy. Not really one of the highly thought of films on Burt Reynolds' resume, but I've always enjoyed it. The interview with the Muppets is a little bit awkward. Um, they rely a lot on Fozzie to kind of carry that, and it's a lot of cutting back and forth and insert shots. Um, the interview with Jim Henson and Frank Oz, of interest for Muppet historians and things. This is during the time that they're doing the Muppet Show and they're working on the Muppet movie. So, like I said, Orson Welles would do this cameo with them. And he just really liked the Muppets. He really thought Henson was a genius, which he was. And the interesting thing here is you get to see Frank Oz talk more about the puppetry really than Jim Henson does. The magic trick that he does first is it's hard to do magic when you're cutting. Uh, it's when you film a magic trick, you want to hold on a long shot, keep everything above board, but he gets back and forth out of it a lot with the Muppet reactions and things. So it just doesn't feel like it's that special, which was odd because he'd done this magic act a lot back in the war years for the USO. He used to do it with Rita Hayworth, his wife at the time, or he'd do it with Marlene Dietrich, uh, big names. It went over really well on stage. Here, it doesn't feel all that special or exciting. Now, the last trick, the card, and with the bullet trick, he does build a little bit of excitement. And Angie Dickinson, of course, is there to help him, and she was very popular at the time, coming off of Police. Especially in the bullet trick, he's really hamming it for the audience, really building up the suspense of is this going to be an accident? Is something horrible going to happen? Of course, it doesn't. It's all magic. So could this have been a talk show? It's oddly set up. It's oddly edited. It's very comparable to what you saw with like Wells's film F is for Fate, where there's a lot of cuts, there's a lot of jumping around from one thing to the other, sort of disjointed follow throughs. So it may have been a stylistic choice on his part, or it may just have been that they didn't have the resources to really do anything other than just sort of cut it all together into sort of a pitch reel for the networks. Now, according to Wells, he wanted to do something commercial and he wanted to get back out there and show that he could do television, but that nobody wanted it. It was pitched around and just nobody bought. So let's go to the screen here with the network schedule for 1979 to 80, which is they shot it in 78. It was basically finished by 1979. So they would have been looking for a 79 80 television schedule in late. Now back then, it was not likely as now we have talk shows on every network. Carson was the big draw, and after him, the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder that aired. Those were really the ratings powerhouses. ABC was doing very well in that time slot, especially with the Iran crisis, the Iran hostage. That's what started Nightline. Many people will remember that was what ran on ABC for a long time. Was Nightline and the late news on ABC before they got into doing their own talk shows. And CBS had something called the CBS Late Movie that ran in that slot. And by the end of the 70s, they were really using that slot less for movies and more for just rerunning television programs. When I was a kid, this would have been like 75, 76, they were running things like Kolchak the Night Stalker and reruns. Or they occasionally would run a movie like Hawk the Slayer. I remember seeing that a lot on the CBS late night slot. So CBS could have been looking for something to go against Carson. But whatever was going to go in that slot was going to get killed. So I think they were just hedging their bets and sticking with reruns during this time. ABC had their whole news thing going on, and they were doing well with that. And of course, NBC's got the powerhouse block here that everybody's watching. So I don't really know that he would have fit in anywhere. CBS would have been the natural place to pitch it to, But CBS didn't go with a talk show until like 1989 with the Pat Sajak show, when the late night wars were going on and they were looking to compete. And then Fox, of course, came along and they had Joan Rivers, they had Arsenio Hall. ABC eventually went with their own talk shows. And the Tonight Show is still running strong. So I don't know that it really had a place. Could have been pitched as an independent, as a syndicated show, but of course that would have been much more expensive to do because you didn't have the backing of the network. Could have been like an afternoon show maybe, but I'm not sure he would have fit into that sort of Mike Douglas, Dick Cavett sort of mold as easily. Orson was doing a lot of interview shows, which is why I think he was kind of drawn to this, because he'd been on so many during this time, because he was still working on films and stuff, but didn't have anything major. He was doing voiceover work, he was doing commercials, but he was a frequent guest on late night talk shows and afternoon talk shows. So it was kind of a natural thing for him to go, well, I can do this. But again, it's another great what if. Would he have kept that sort of format? Would he have done more experimental things, more short film type things for that slot? It's a great question, but we just don't know. He wasn't given another opportunity and didn't have the money to sort of keep trying. And it was really the last thing that he produced and directed in Hollywood, was this pilot. And we're lucky to have it. The editor actually saved the film and the prints of it, and worked with Orson Welles' daughter, keep all the copyrights up and make sure it didn't fall into the public domain. And apparently they're still looking for a place to put it so that you can see that and all of his television work, and on streaming or pay-per-view, that kind of thing. So that was it. That was the Orson Welles pilot from 1979. The Orson Welles Show. Simple title, but maybe not that great an idea. So next time we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum, according to some people. If Welles is the best director that ever worked, a lot of people consider Ed Wood the worst director that ever worked. Not me personally, but I will be defending Ed Wood a bit in the next one, as we watch the TV Western pilot that he directed and shot called Crossroads Avenger. So we will see you next time. This is Scott Free signing off from Pilot's Graveyard, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, and bye.
Welcome to the Pilot's Graveyard, where dreams are dashed and plans are scarred. Alive, a tear, a tale untold. Stories of shows that never got sold. Stories of shows that never got sold.